Hey everybody, thanks for joining me on the return of The Empty Theater. I am Brody, and as October is almost upon us, throughout the next several episodes, I'll be devoting them to some of my favorite horror films. But before I get to those episodes, I hope you'll join me in commemorating a legend we lost recently. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Wes Craven.
Last house on the left. The hills have eyes. Nightmare on Elm Street.
Wes Craven's The People Under the Stairs.
Vampire in Brooklyn.
Scream.
Music of the heart. Red Eye.
Wes Craven made an over 40-year career out of finding the horror and terror in man's constant struggle with the nature of good versus evil, often bouncing it off the notion of retribution. His debut film, 1972's brutal The Last House on the Left, was without mercy in this examination. We're presented with the villains of the story and they do terrible things, but then the heroes who we have been introduced to, they do terrible things, all in pursuit of retribution. It really cuts to the core of that age-old argument of what is justice.
You bad baby.
Now, in a way, 1984's Nightmare on Elm Street was a spiritual continuation of Last House on the Left. Freddy Krueger is, by all accounts, a terrible human being. He is a mass murderer of children, and he gets away on a legal technicality. So we get the parents forming a mob, grabbing the pitchforks and torches, and burning him alive. Again, was that justice? Nightmare goes one step further, though. In Last House on the Left, the villains have to answer for the terrible deeds they committed. Now, in Nightmare, yes, the terrible person answered for his terrible crimes. But now the good people who did terrible deeds, they're answering for their crimes. Craven further examines the parallels of good and evil in the Scream franchise starting in 1996. In each film, the character that turns out to be the killer feels wronged in some way, the severity of which is up for debate, but the movies are meta-examinations on what the horror genre became, to the point that they are exquisite self-satire. So it's almost inconsequential what the killer's motivations were. What is important is that you have these good people lashing out in reaction to a grievance and turning their wrath onto the person whose face they can attach their hate, in this case, Sidney Prescott. Now, because of how satirical and self-referential the Scream franchise got, there's a lot to unpack, and I'll do that in a later episode. But this facet is what's thematically relevant.
I don't really believe in motive, Sid. I mean, did Norman Bates have a motive?
No.
Did they ever really decide why Hannibal Lecter liked to eat people? Don't think so. See, it's a lot scarier when there's no motive, Sid.
Even the prophetically titled Curse deals with this. You have evil werewolves doing evil werewolf things for evil reasons, and the good people who are turned into werewolves trying to right those wrongs by the evil werewolves. A lot of metaphors and subtleties did get lost in the numerous reshoots and rewrites, but you kind of see what could have been.
I didn't ask for this. It was just a hot night with a guy that every girl in town wanted. Lucky me. Should have been more careful, though. I got a little rough in bed and wound up cursed by the mark of the fucking beast.
Throughout his career, Wes Craven would broaden that scope of retribution, turning it away from a specific person or group of people and turning it on society as a whole. He grew up in the nuclear era. He was 6 when the bombs were dropped on Japan. So The Hills Have Eyes, with their themes of nuclear testing out in the desert, are almost his way of saying, yeah, we're in this nuclear arms race. Yeah, we're developing better, more efficient ways of killing everyone. But to what end? Even if we don't use it, this is still something we will have to answer for in one way or the other.
And you think his ghost is still trying to track you? That was a long time ago.
Long enough for him to steal a whore that nobody'd miss. Long enough to raise a passel of wild kids. Long enough for a devil kid to grow up to be a devil man.
And even though Swamp Thing wasn't his creation, it had been a comic book for about 10 years before he got to it in 1982, you see a similar theme in that film. A lot happened in the 1970s in regards to the environmental movement and reducing pollution and fixing the ozone, and a lot was going on in that time, in the years leading up to it. So what's fascinating about Swamp Thing is that not only does it pose that same idea that pollution is something that we as a species, as a society, are going to have to answer for, it actually manifests who we're going to answer to. It puts a face on nature in Swamp Thing.
Much beauty in the swamp, if you only look.
Alec?
Now, in the latter half of his career, I think he got to the point where creatively he had said everything that he needed to say, that he wanted to say as an artist. So he started to explore his creative boundaries as a filmmaker, and you can see that in 1995's Vampire in Brooklyn. It's as if he said, I never made a vampire movie, let me give that a go. It was the same with the werewolf movie Cursed. Music of the Heart was to see if he could do a non-horror film. Red Eye was a loving homage to Alfred Hitchcock films. As for My Soul to Take, I don't really know what he was trying to do or say with that one. Now, when I say Craven said all he had to creatively say with his more prominent films, that's not to dismiss the others as not having any creative merit or having any kind of message. I just felt that they were born more out of artistic curiosity than anything else. And that's ultimately the true testament to his career. He has these films that are his legacy, that generations of filmmakers and fans will point to as signature Wes Craven. But he has this other set of films that, while not as well remembered or as well regarded, still exhibit his devotion to his art. And both are his legacy. Both are what make him a master of the genre and a master of the art form. And so I raise my glass to you, Wes Craven, to a life well lived and a career well done. I'm gonna miss your art, and thanks for the scares. That was Wes Craven. I'm Brody. This has been the return of the Empty Theater, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.
Well, yeah, I have a very sort of ambivalent view of myself as an artist or as a filmmaker. I mean, somebody once, when I was first starting in films in New York, says, if you want something on your gravestone in the film business, I think the best thing is filmmaker. If you can honestly say that, that's all you need to say. And that I think I would like that on my gravestone, along with whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining me on the Empty Theater web series. You can follow me on Twitter and like us on Facebook. Both those links are down in the description. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss an episode, and be excellent to each other.